What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mystery of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Hello, hello, hello. You made it again. It is Thursday, June 15th, and I made it as well. Here we are at the live stream of consciousness. It's good to see you guys out there, guys and ladies and folks and people and humans and things. But I'm excited to be there. What's up, Ninja Kitty? Good to see you as always. I'm excited to be here. Life is moving. I cannot believe it is June 15th already. Oh my God, it's the middle of June. I feel like it was just what happened 2020 and whoa, Jesus. Anyway, don't want to get distracted. I am excited tonight because I have a guest on my show who I met on the other show, The Fool's Journey, and he was an awesome dude. It was an awesome conversation, and you guys know how much I love awesome conversations. Yes, we are in our happy place. I thought of a whole bunch of clever stuff to say, like right before I got online, about the people who are watching now, and then the people who are watching in the what's it called, the replay. And what's up, William Conway? Good to see you, my friend. I forgot all of what I was going to say. So here we are in the moment, and I'm going to just start introducing my guest. I think I did start introducing my guest. I'm going to continue introducing my guest. So without further ado, welcome to the live stream of consciousness, the Rebel Yogi himself, Rebel Yogi Satya. What's up, Rebel Yogi? I don't hear you. All of a sudden your sound is not working. We were just talking right before. Nope, I'm not hearing you. Hold on a second. I'm talking about the replay. Yes, Randy, I was talking about the replay.
That was me. I think I'm back.
Oh, you are back. Welcome. All right, let's do this again. Welcome to the show, Rebel Yogi Satya.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Michael.
I'm excited to talk to you, man. We met on The Fool's Journey. You're a friend of Brian, who is the host and the reason for The Fool's Journey.
Mm-hmm.
We just had such an amazing conversation. And it was like, when I meet people like you, I'm immediately like, oh, you got to have you on the live stream of consciousness. Yeah. So welcome to the show. We do have a little bit of business to take care of. I call it business, but it's actually really the reason we're here. And Jesse said it in the introduction. I realized I'm giving away the whole thing right in the first moment with that new introduction that I made. But what is consciousness? What is consciousness to you, Rebel Yogi?
Wow, you're starting heavy, man. What is consciousness?
We jump right in.
Yeah. The age-old question, the deepest spiritual question they say is, who am I, or what am I? And thank you, Lily Ninja Kitty, for your welcome. And what I find is it's more of a question rather than, we did an exercise in this Babaji's Kriya Yoga initiation. And one person goes, tell me who you are. And they just sit back and listen. And the other person goes. So the first person I was with was going like, I am a woman, I am a teacher, I am a this, and listed all the roles we play, And then I thought I was so deep and spiritual. So when it came to my time, I go, I am consciousness, I am a soul. I was giving a bunch of labels and lists also. It was just more, spiritual.
Right.
But I think what we start seeing is it's hard to define, what is consciousness, some kind of awareness, but perhaps the question, who am I, is more directing you in that negative concept of what you're not. You start saying like, okay, I am a teacher, but that's not who I am. Say I lost my job, I don't somehow disappear. Or, I have a male body and I function through that, But just like a car, it's not who I am. It's just my vehicle to interact with this world. And it might influence it in a certain way.
Right.
And so who I am seems to me really more about that witness, that awareness, that one who sits back and watches,
right,
and who participates in through this body. And whether they participate through their own karmic dharma or whether they participate active choices, it's that kind of witness. So I would say consciousness relates to some kind of awareness that we are. We are. What's after that? What we are? It's just we are. I am.
yes.
Consciousness.
1,000,000%, and that's kind of like the Eckhart Tolle take on the who is the I behind the I? Who am I? Well, who's even asking that question, right?
Yeah.
Who's asking who am I? Wait a second, and that's that's where you start getting into it. Absolutely. So yes, I start deep, but it's easy place to go and put us all on the same page, put us in the mood to have these conversations. And so after hearing that and kind of just knowing where you are, thank you, Frankie D, by the way. I see you out there. Knowing who you are, the question is this: I'd love for you to share a story or a moment when you realized there was more to the I than the guy. Who you were. Your body, or your person, your name.
Yeah. I've only shared this story a few times,
Awesome.
And this was, one might call it, using our spiritual terms, like a satori, a moment of awakening or something. I was very deep into my practice. I very consistent with my meditation, pranayama meditation, all this stuff. And at a certain point, through these initiations through Babaji's Kriya Yoga, which is a big part of my practice, each day there's different pranayamas to do each day. But at a certain point, I became much more aware of just the one watching this. So my body would continue to do this patterning of a breath or this meditation, what it's focused on. But I was more aware of, like, from a distance watching this happen. And then then in the midst of that, I'm walking my dog and I have to mail a letter, and I'm on a street corner. And suddenly I just have this awareness of, again, this grand, like, witness consciousness where I'm like, it doesn't really matter what I do physically. Like, I just am,
Mm-hmm.
And I was not frozen, but I was on that corner for a moment. And then I was like, so then I had to physically will myself, okay, what am I going to do? I'll go to the post office or whatever.
Right.
For about a week or so, this awareness stayed with me. And I remember this felt kind of dramatic to me, but it's when I went to a movie with someone, and you know how movies are designed to really pull you in to forget yourself. But I was aware of myself sitting in the seat for 2 hours straight. Partly maybe it wasn't the greatest movie, and that was helpful, but I was just, like, kind of aware of myself.
Right.
And that stayed with me for a week. And it dissipated. I got caught back into the world of, like, the egoic and caught up in all this stuff and, whatever. But it really, there's still always a part of me that witnesses, even as I'm talking, there's a part of me that's, like, watching this talk.
Yeah. I was just experiencing the same thing. That's awesome that you said that.
Yeah. And guess what? When I get caught up in arguments or whatever, there's a part of me that's literally watching the argument, and it's not judging. It's not like holier than thou. It just watches, and it's like,
love that.
You're welcome here too, if you want. And
I love that. And Hat Powser's out there. What's up, Hat? What up, my ascending fractal wonders? I love that. Thank you. What's up? We're here in the moment, and you're here, and we're discussing all this cool stuff. Yeah, that's so you'd say almost like an out-of-body experience, kind of like.
I would say, though, one thing also it's different, because I know some people, even talking with Brian, Brian had some, I remember maybe it was one of his first podcasts, the Wizard of Oz or whatever, and he had some really, his teacher was guiding him, and he went to a place and he picked stuff up, and then when he comes back, those objects are in his pocket. Like,
that's the most amazing story, man. When he told me that story, I was blown away. Like, he was his mentor took him physically, like, okay, we're going to New York, and he closed his eyes and opened his eyes, and he was in New York, and physically, and that's just such an amazing story. Yeah,
So I'm always fascinated and amazed by that. Like I look at that with wonder, but I really do think my experience, as well as what I kind of consider from my limited perspective about consciousness, enlightenment, is really, it's a little more mundane and regular. Like while I was having that experience, and that seems different than being totally identified with this body and my role,
right.
I was still functioning. But I was more connected to that flow. It's like when I teach yoga, I really don't need to plan so much. It's just like what the stories that need to come through. And life felt a little more easeful in that way. So it's a little more like regular, I think a lot of us are thinking like enlightenment's like winning the lottery and now I'm fully and nothing bothers me. But there's a book by, I believe, Jack Kornfield, a Buddhist teacher, says, after enlightenment, the laundry, or after awakening.
Oh my God, that's great. I love that. It's so true. It's like you could be as enlightened as you want, but unless you're not three-dimensional, you're still three-dimensional. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, totally. So Venus is out there saying good evening, and what we're like teleporting. She's talking about the story. We're talking about Brian. Also, Hat is asking who is Brian. Brian Lahr is the Wizard of Oz, who we do a show on Monday with, the Fool's Journey, a tarot show, and that's who we're talking about. But Venus, you reminded me what I was going to say, and that is that if you're here, just say hello. I don't always know who's here. I love to know who's here. I love part of this is not just me connecting with Yogi Satya here and having a great conversation. It's connecting with whoever's out there viewing in the present moment, and also on the replays. And what I was going to say is that if you are watching the replay, make a comment. Let me know you're watching. Let me know what you think. If you feel connected to this, if you like it, if you don't like it, let me know. I don't think I need the validation, but I just feel like the connection is worth it. So, and we've got the quiet out there healer out there saying hello. What's up, quiet healer? Good to see you always. So, okay, so we're done with the business part, which is relating the story, but that also gets into who you are and what you do. I love your website. Hold on, let me put that up here. And that was another thing I forgot to say, which was I love the tagline on your website. And I was going to introduce the show and say, all right, we are about to be authentic without apology. And welcome to Yogi Satya. So I just put your website up at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to bring it up, but I would love you to take the stage and tell me all about who you are and your philosophies about like rebel yogi. What does that even mean? And all of that wonderful stuff. So why don't you go ahead? I'm just going to bring this up right here.
Oh, cool. So when I was working with a guy who I was pretty good friends with on Facebook, and we were working on the web design, and the long story of just a little part, it kind of affected our friendship a lot. And so that, unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I want to talk about the tagline. So we were working on stuff, brainstorming stuff, and there was something about like, live your ultimate, it was one of these like very commercial lines, like
right.
He was liking a lot, like, live to your full potential and blah, blah. And I was like, it spoke to me a little, but didn't speak to my heart, and early on I had written be authentic without apology, but that one became in like deleted file. And I remember seeing that movie. What's that movie that there was a musical called something Hansen?
A story about a kid, Eric Hansen or something.
So I saw that on an airplane, and I just remember like, this kid in the story, without giving you spoilers, he's playing kind of a role, and Dear Evan Hansen is the name of the movie.
Dear Evan Hansen, yes.
He's playing a role like where he's kind of misinterpreted as something, as a friend of this guy, and he kind of plays it up. And at the very end, he kind of has to come clean, it seems, and there was something that just after I watched that movie, I was so touched, and I was like, that's what, it's about being authentic. It's not about being the best friend of everyone or this role. It's about being you and Who accepts that? Cool. Who doesn't? Like you said, you don't need the approval. You're just being you. And so that really, and at that point I said, no, that's the line, be authentic without apology. And even when I directed this guy, I wasn't looking for him to give me advice. No, that's not, I'm like, no, this is the line. It was very
That's
clear
awesome.
that
Yeah,
spoken.
perfect. It's perfect. Also, great way, by the way, to describe Evan Hansen without giving it away. That was awesome. Very nice job there.
Yeah.
Yeah, authenticity is something that we talk about a lot here on the live stream of consciousness. I think that it's the great thing about authenticity is that you can't fake it. You know what I mean? And that's what I think is so appealing about it. When you meet someone who is authentic, you know they're being their authentic self because you feel it. You can't deny it. And I think that's also a huge key to self-love, obviously, but also besides the self, connecting with others, authentically. So I love this whole philosophy of be authentic without apology. And so tell us more.
Well, I'll share a teaching story. I believe it comes from the Jewish tradition, but it might be applied to different ones. So the old teacher Susa was about to get ready for death. He's getting towards that end, and he's looking very worried. He's kind of worried, and people are like, "I don't." And so they go, "Susa, I don't understand. You've always been a humble guy. You've always been an honest man. What are you worried about?" And he goes, "Well, I'm going to be meeting God face to face soon. And he's not going to ask me, Susa, why weren't you more like Abraham? He's not going to ask me, Susa, why weren't you more like Moses? He's going to say, Susa, why weren't you more like Susa?"
Love that.
And so when we talk about, again, being authentic, and again, who knows, we can all have our philosophies of consciousness or this. For all we know, we might be in some plug-in virtual reality matrix battery, but it kind of comes to reason that we all came here as part of this soul fractal, as one of your guests has said, to be that fractal, to be that aspect of us. And how many of us are really playing roles, and we're going to live pretty much a costume life? Like, that doesn't seem why we came here. Maybe part of why we came here is to actually find our flow, find our expression. And guess what? Not everyone's going to dig it, but that's not who you're meant to be. Like you said, you like to find the people that vibe with you. You have some experience share, and you can disagree as well. Yeah. So if you're not really yourself, think about if you're at the end of your life and you're like, yeah, I did a good job faking. Like, how satisfying is that?
Right. Oops, sorry about that. I meant to switch it to this so we were even size. Yeah, I got to tell you how much I love everything you're saying, because I think it's the key to almost everything. Is understanding what that even means. Like I figured out along the way to self-love a couple of things, and that was one that obviously when you don't have self-love, it's a lot of times about trying to be someone else, right? And you can never ever be someone else. But that's the beautiful thing, because not only can you never be someone else, but no one can ever be you. And that is what made me say, wow, no one can be me, and I'm here for a reason. You know what I mean? And it made me start to look at, why am I here, and what do I have to give to the rest of the fractal, to the whole collective, and I think once you realize that, all of those things that you were talking about, you do start to, you raise the vibration, of yourself, of those around you, of the collective, and you're kind of on that path. I feel like I don't know many people who have gone along this path of the spiritual path. I don't love the terminology, but I don't know many people who have turned around and gone back. It's like, once you know certain things, you can't unknow.
Yeah. The mystic Osho said that every piece of grass is valuable to the whole. It's like, if without one piece of grass, everything would be different. Now, you and I are not going to notice necessarily a difference, but I would like to expand that to all of us, that without any one of you watching this, or any one of us, things would be different. All the people you interact with, things would be different, And I know, like, some people get into such a funk where there can be even suicidal or even commit suicide, and they're not thinking about how they're affecting others because they're in a hole. And, you know, I'm not blaming or whatever. I'm just, but you don't understand that when you leave, you're going to affect so many people that care about you, so many people that would think, how could I have been more present? How could I, you know, and we have such, you've heard of 6 degrees of separation. You know, we have so many degrees that we're connected with that, you know. Totally. That's why when even people use terms like karma, like, oh, it's his karma, it's my karma. I'm like, I shouldn't get involved. That's his karma. It's like all our karmas are so interspersed that you can't really separate it as like, I'm an isolated being. That in a way we're one being, all having these little different experiences.
Agreed 100%. You know, and I'm sitting here thinking as we're talking, it's like, I love these conversations. That's why I do this show. That's why I have people on the show like you. And I'm like, am I creating my own echo chamber? Am I like disservicing myself here by you know, just purposely surrounding myself with this? But like I said, you know, and I'm just thinking out loud here. You know, like I said, you know, kind of once you go this direction, you can't go back, you know. And so I feel like making the connection just I don't like the term validates, even though that's what it does. It validates the collective, and I do feel like each show I kind of connect the collective, right? You and me are connecting. I got to do it this way. We're connecting, and anyone who's watching, like you said, and it's a special moment. And again, even in the replay, someone who stumbles across this and starts to watch it and resonates with the things that we're talking about, you know what I mean? It's the ripple there, right? And it's the pond. There's so many metaphors that I love talking about as far as that describe that oneness, a drop in the ocean, you know, that you were talking about, the grass, you know, that's one I like. I don't really hear that one too often. Confirm is a good word as opposed to validate. Yeah, that's a good one. I do like that.
And I'm going to add something. And I know the Mystic Osho is also very dear in my heart. Just a little, very small background from it. Way back, I was going to write a piece on spiritually incorrect enlightenment, something like very like not how many people think of it. And this is back when there were bookstores and not, you know, booksellers online. And I put in the order for this book because it had a few keywords. It was autobiography of a spiritually incorrect mystic, you know, so it had buzzwords of spiritual and that. And when I first started reading that, it was kind of an Osho autobiography. When I started reading it, I was like, that's how I feel. Right. Oh my God. And more than stuff like, and I'm not invalidating this if people feel this way, but more than like, we are all one, you know, like those were often very pithy things that sounded right or felt like maybe that's the absolute, but I didn't feel it. And I've challenged this, maybe you heard me say this before, but if you're really feeling we're all one, then if I go into your bag or into your pocket or touch your body, hey, I'm just touching my own body. Your money is my money. Like we really aren't living that, you know, because in this plane, there is a certain need for boundaries and separation. But I really had this real connection of like feeling like vibration of that truth, you know? So I hear that when we feel that vibration, we get pulled to that. I think I just saw the other day, Andrew Tate, love him or hate him. I think the guy's a boss. He owns his confidence and he says his things. He was being interviewed while he's on house arrest by BBC, and the person was very hostile and very trying to put him down. This guy owned it. And often during that, he said, he goes, look, I'm enjoying this. It's not like, you know, like his people were like, and he's like, no, I'm enjoying it. So talking to you about getting like-minded people, as long as you're enjoying it, imagine if you had people who didn't vibe, it would be another discussion. It'd be another thing. And that's cool too. And that can serve a lot of people because we want people to come to their decision based on their vibe and their decision, not just because we're just sharing one angle.
Right. Absolutely. More kind of confirmation of the collective. Thank you for the word. I want to address a couple of comments. We've got a very chatty comment section tonight, which is awesome. Venus says what you do to someone is you do to yourself. And that's kind of what we were just talking about. William Conway, understanding that is usually what stops me, to be honest. That makes sense too. Hat Pauser, years ago, I had a precious college student sum it up this way. Of course, I can change the entire universe right now. Making it include me having lunch. I love that. That's That's what you were talking about. Like you're still human, no matter how spiritual and how much understanding you have. You still got to do the laundry.
But I like what you said also earlier, is that people on the spiritual path, once you go, no one can just go back totally asleep. It's like
Yeah.
once you see the matrix, you can't just ignore it and deny it,
Yeah.
without serious heavy medication or something.
Right. But I think part of it for me too is also now learning to understand and have compassion for those who don't, right? For those who are asleep, and understanding why, understanding, oh, you know what, at one point I was conditioned the same way. I kind of grew up with those same kind of what do they call it, paradigms, kind of being taught to me. Hat Pauser can't quite put my brain on the quote about changing one thing changes the universe entire, or this universe anyway. And the wizard is here and says, man, Michael, you'll let anyone on. What's up, wizard? Good to see you. So that's how you came up with Rebel. And Satya is a beast. Woohoo! Definite beast. I love this.
Let me just say one thing about Rebel also,
Cool.
because a lot of people think Rebel is kind of like the anarchist. I'm rebelling against, and really you're rebelling for. You're again, a rebellion is really more of an individual thing. And often, like I would say, like Jesus was a rebel. He was. So I'm just saying, all of a sudden it becomes coagulated, and then it's like a revolution. It's different, but it's like now we're following this and be like Jesus and be like Muhammad. And I would say, with the risk of offending people, Jesus and Muhammad don't want you to be like them. They want you to be like you, and you could admire their qualities. You could admire the quality of love, but they want you to love your way and how you came to love, not their way. And if you're being a cartoon of Jesus or Muhammad or another teacher, you're not being what you came here to be. And it might be similar and it might be different, but believe me, these people understand that you are you. And so that's one danger of a lot of religions become revolutions of sort. We're all just following the same theme. And so the rebel is really looking at their individual path and willing to step away and step out of that. Take the red pill, as Sam says. The red pill of more than even fit. Look, we still want to fit into society in a certain level because it becomes just friggin' uncomfortable, And that's where I have challenges with some of the new agers who are just like, no, it's, I'm like, how do you friggin' live like that? It just becomes, you're making your life very difficult, so we can still, and sometimes this goes with, you don't have to always voice your opinion. You could do more listening than talking. You could understand people where they're at. You don't have to fight everything, but you do know at a certain point what really doesn't serve you, what's really offensive. How many of us, if someone says something in a group offensive, say it's something racist or whatever, and you feel like uncomfortable, how many of us will, I shouldn't really say anything, I'll just leave it. Like, that's where something vibes, and the collective wants to hear your voice. It doesn't mean you're right or wrong.
So good, yeah.
And that's where, again, that rebellion against, I don't want to stir the pot. No, be you. And that's what I think being a rebel is, more than like throwing bricks through windows. That's just someone who's disruptive.
But like you said, there's also that other word, authenticity, that needs to be put into that, because I think a lot of times there's this kind of, especially right now, right, in this time in humanity, we all know there's some shit that's been thrown into the mix that is throwing us off, whether it's intentional or not. It's throwing us off, right? And part of that is being offended by everything, right? Everybody's offended by everything. Everyone's like, oh, but it's not that they're offended by everything. It's that they're looking at somebody else. They're looking outside themselves at something someone else is doing, and it's not what they would do. And, they feel like they need to voice it. So I'm going against what you're saying a little bit, but it's because it's been, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not exaggerated. It's been, oh my God, when you take advantage of a weakness, what is that word? I can't think of the word for it, but I think it's intentionally taking advantage of the conditioning of people and being used as a divisive tool.
Yeah.
Right. To make us fight with each other and to make us not connect with each other. You know what I mean? You're talking about rebelling on a way to connect us together and say, hey, let's talk about this for a second. Why do you feel the need to say that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's an important point, Michael. What you said, the goal is not to be right and put someone down or say this guy's an idiot. That the goal is to actually connect. Right. And so by the way, I saw your guest said stir the pot. I definitely like stirring the pot, but my goal is not to hurt people, you know. And so I do think there's times to speak up, you know. But again, most people,
stirring the pot is not necessarily a bad thing, right? If you don't stir the pot, it'll coagulate, right?
Yes.
You got to stir it every once in a while, right?
But I'm going to say that many of us offer our opinions or our frustrations just out of our own ego thing. Like I have a guy I'm actually friends with. I see though, like some of his posts on, you know, one of the social medias, and they'll be like, you know, this package was late today and this, and I'm just curious, like, why are we sharing this? You know, like, I don't necessarily tell you, like, I had a good shit today, you know, or whatever. Like, it's not really neat. So I'm curious, a lot of this, you know, stuff about why we're sharing. And I will say about the hypersensitive, hyper offended thing is, you know, this is just like yoga. Why are we doing these postures? Yeah, to open up the body, to get some flow and energy going, to become. But I think a lot of it is really, as a microcosm for life, is to be under stress and figure out how the only two things the Yoga Sutras say about the asanas, to be grounded and to be calm or relaxed in that, you know? And so the idea that people literally, if it's not ideal to you, I just taught a yoga class tonight and I gave the example of the three bears and what's it? Who's the girl?
Goldilocks.
Goldilocks. Thank you.
Yes. And
it's
too hot. It's too cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So she's going to be miserable if it's too hot. She's going to, it's just right. In your life, when was anything ever just right? You meet this person, they have so many great qualities, and we start magnifying the one that's not just right. That one quality that's not just right is there for you to figure out how to ground, how to be centered, and how to love that. You know?
So what's so cool about again, I don't love the terminology, the spiritual journey, is that you start to see your reflection in everybody. And you don't start to see, you don't start looking for the things that aren't right with that person. You start to see the things that are right with that person. You start to see more light than darkness. You start to react to people differently. Of course, listen, there are all sorts of personalities in this world, and we know that, right? Everybody's got to deal with certain things, and it's unfortunate that conditioning that I mentioned earlier is related to operating from ego, right? A lot of people do. But again, I think that the more spiritual you get and the more you love yourself, the more you're able to deal with that. And something that I've enjoyed over the last couple of years is navigating those relationships, right? People that you meet that are tough, to be able to navigate those relationships to where they really don't like many people, but they treat you differently because the way you treat them a little bit differently, right? And the way you still even love them, even though they don't necessarily get that from other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Matt Kahn said he has a program or a book that says, whatever arises, love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to me, that's really saying, it goes back to unconditional love. Is we're most of us are playing business games. You know, you do this for me and I'll love you. You provide this for me and I love you. And all of a sudden, the wallet's not providing or the sex isn't providing. And then we're like, and it's like, sure, we can discuss and get frustrated, but where did the love go? Is it just a business negotiation? If you actually love every experience, and what you said about reflecting, I think this is a huge point. If you actually see people as a mirror, instead of focusing on their flaws and their problems, you start going, man, how do I do that? You know, in my own way. Mm-hmm. And just like I said with Jesus and Muhammad, we're not going to be exactly flawed in that way, but we're going to have some. If it's a selfish thing you see, we're all going to start saying like, there's times where I am much more self-focused in a way that's a little selfish, you know? Right. And so that to me is another super deep spiritual practice, is rather than worrying about them, because that's not my problem. You know, that's your problem. I could walk away. I don't need to interact, you know, but what am I learning from this interaction? How is it reflecting like me? Maybe it's a lesson I learned. And if I learned it, like you said, maybe I can honor them. They're still learning it. Why am I beating them up?
That's it. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, totally. I want to catch up here. People are again. We got
I love hearing what
great chat
people
room
have to say.
tonight. Thank you so much, people, for interacting with us. Hat. I'm going back to talking about everybody being offended. Grown ass humans don't get offended. Somebody else's bad behavior is their problem, not mine. Says everything about them and nothing about me. You know that's the truth. And it's so funny. Like the people who scream and yell about their right to say what they want to say. Hey, say whatever you want to say, but know that what you say is going to reflect on who you are. And if you're saying some crappy stuff, it's your right to say it. but that's what you're saying. You're saying crappy stuff. You know what I mean? So that's for sure. Quiet Healer is saying exacerbate. I think as me looking for that word when someone takes advantage. It's not the word. It's when someone takes advantage of your weakness. If anyone knows that word, it's damn it, I can't think of it. Anyway, truth stirs the pot. Aside from people's added ego, Sanchez's rebel definitely makes you think about and question your own answers and see if there's an alternative route. Absolutely, that's an important skill. Looking for stuff to get offended at is part of otheritis instead of focusing on themselves. Yeah. It's so true. You see the things about you that need work, absolutely. And that's the great thing about the spiritual journey is, you know, your scope of understanding just grows and grows and grows, and you start to see yourself in not only other people but everything. You see your role in the world. You see, you know, your energy that you're putting out. You see your own, you know, footprint.
And I want to comment on Wizard of Oz's comment. You see the things about you that need work. There's one danger in the new age world is that you have a certain awakening or a certain feeling like, you know, or you're very good in downward dog, and you kind of start thinking, many people start thinking they don't have more work to do. You know, they think they got it, you know, and then what they do is they surround themselves in their fishbowl with the comfortable people that support their ego and say, yes, you're great. And yes, this, that, and they don't grow. And if you have an understanding that there's always more darkness in you to bring to light, to bring the light to, you know, and you don't surrender. And this keeps you also open to hear differing opinions and stuff. Yeah. Most of us, when people talk, we're immediately ready for our response, you know. Yeah. How about this? Here's a great meditation for you guys from practice. Ready?
Yeah, I love it. Share it.
I'm not going to tell you to focus on your third eye. I'm not going to tell you to count your breaths even in and out. What I'm going to say is this. When you're talking with someone and they're talking, as they start talking, become aware of your thoughts. You're like, oh, I have this point, and just gently let it go. Trust that it will come back if you need it, and just bring yourself back to listen. And when you find yourself, oh, I'm judging, that was a stupid, just push it gently aside and bring yourself back. So the one pointed awareness is just listening. It's not looking at them or it's not concentrating. It's just being present. And you'll be surprised how much work you have. It's just like when you try and meditate and a million thoughts are coming. But more than just that work, you're doing work on yourself, but you're also being present. Most people don't want answers, don't want this. They want your presence. That's a tremendous gift you can give. So you're going to be meditating. You're going to be honoring someone else. Dude, sick, right?
I love it. And you know, you talk about it very similarly to our friend Steven Durante, who's been on the show. He's a meditation coach, and he talks about the hamster wheel. And you actually mentioned it earlier too, about like just the life, you know what I mean? Like life is that hamster wheel, which you wake up and you get on that hamster wheel, man. Like as spiritual as you are, that hamster wheel is still the routine. It's still, you know, there's still, you know, whether it's a frantic hamster wheel or a very calm, like, okay, I'm on the wheel. I got these things to do. I'll be off the wheel soon, and I'm not really worried. You know, you can still be on that wheel and be calm and cool. But yeah, you're talking about so many. That's just such a cool way to look at it. I love that little nugget that you just gave. I think I'm going to make that a soundbite. I think that's awesome. And Sanchez is telling me exploit. Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Nice.
When you exploit someone's, I think that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, no, that sounds it. I just taught a yoga class tonight, right before this podcast, and one theme was that start observing which postures, which movements start feeling less at ease for you. You know, it might not be like total tension, but it might be less. And see if you can find that thread between it, that it's almost like your final shavasana. Can you imagine moving your body and the whole time you're still connected to that center? Now, definitely some postures are going to provide more muscle tension and whatever, you know, but by doing this also, we're becoming aware of where our tension is. What things in my life cause me more tension? Maybe it's politics. And if I have a discussion with politics, I find myself, no, you know, and so now I'm aware, okay, this is the thing. How can I relax in this posture of politics discussion, you know? And this is where we can kind of think. Now, I'm not saying your goal is to just be bland and like you have no emotions or excitement, you know, but when you start feeling out of control and stuff, that's like addiction versus enjoying. You know, that's like enjoying a drink versus I must have a drink or I can't function. And now it's affecting my life.
So let me ask you a question. As somebody who considers themselves, you know, elevated, advanced, awakened in many areas, how often do you find yourself in that place?
In which place?
What you were just describing, where you just kind of, you react to something and you're just like, oh my God, like politics makes you feel, are you able to control where you exist? Do you I mean, do you feel like that's an important place to go every once in a while? And you should.
I'll sideline a little bit. I'll answer. I'm not avoiding it. If you think
okay.
So one of my favorite teachers is Adyashanti. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I was very immersed in Osho. I remember reading about 40 books by him, reading about 15 books for him and against him. You know, people going to his ashram in India, going to different groups, meditating, doing all these things, you know. Adyashanti was a nice balance for me because Osho's very hard-hitting, push you, make you uncomfortable, do these things. And Adyashanti is a little more like, you know, don't worry about it, you know. If you're slumping, don't worry. You don't have to be like meditate like that. Right. But he said in an interview, they asked him like, do you kind of, you know, I would say he's enlightened. Do you ever have your moments of, you know, and he said, he calls them Velcro moments. He would say, it's almost like every now and then, you know, the computer has its problem and I find myself pulled into it. But what happens is I can quickly kind of get out of it. I don't necessarily have to, I don't think he had to do techniques or whatever. He just could see the identity and pull apart. So I would say that my attachment sometimes holds a little longer, you know? And so I definitely can find myself stirred because, you know, I feel it's like, this is my own issue, by the way. I'm not blaming anyone out there, but I feel like if we're having discussions, debates, like we have to agree on some basic principles. For instance, I had a friend, we were talking on the phone and he kept interrupting me. I was going to contrast BLM, Black Lives Matter, with the Black Panther movement. And I was sharing something. And he goes, but no, it's different times again. I go, just let me finish. And I'm like, let me finish. And he kept not letting me finish. And I got very frustrated. I'm like, all right, I'm not talking. And we kind of disconnected because on the basic life thing, we have to have basic understanding. So my frustration sometimes happens is when we dissolve like our own free will and thought and logical, you know, logical intellect, you know, and sometimes it frustrates me. I'm like, I don't get it. Like just an example, and I will bring politics up, you know. By the way, when I'm in yoga, you know, studios are like, don't talk about politics and religion. And I'm like, I'd like to. And recently a bookstore invited me to teach there, workshops and stuff. And she actually mentioned that. And I said, you know, hey, look, I'm not picking sides, but I like to bring real world stuff because we're all looking at that. And then we go, no, my spirituality is sitting on a pad, you know? Right. So if you're looking at documents that were supposedly confidential that Trump took or whatever, and you're not also, and you're saying that's bad, he should be arrested. And you're not also saying that Biden took documents when he wasn't the president, because only the president can declassify, when he was a senator, when it's this, you're not doing that. We're not on the same playing field. Like I can't have a discussion that you don't actually see that, that's similar and it should be. And again, that's just one particular thing. I'm not saying right, wrong, either one. But, So I find
I think you are. I think you're saying both wrong. I think you're saying, you know, I was seeing some of that too, when people were saying, well, if this person, you know, how could you say anything when this person got away with it? And I'm like, well, just because that person got away with it doesn't make it right or okay. So we should let anybody now not get away with it, or you know what I mean? It's just like
yeah. And again, I'm not going to
broken.
say all right or wrong. I'm going to say there's a lot of more nuances to that as far as what the right of president can do and what, other things. But I just find it amazing that people will be like, one thing's wrong and the other one I don't care about. And I'm like, all right, if we're establishing right and wrong, we have to still be on that.
I have Venus. We have Venus has to go to bed. She's tired.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So I do have my attached moments, and I still work on that because I don't feel at peace with that. I can still, part of me, witness it, but still my body is freaking getting excited or whatever. And also, as someone else said, is like, I want to actually respect, and maybe you said, I want to respect these other people and love them for their different opinions and honor that first. And I'm not doing that if I'm getting caught up in, but the right and the argument,
it's so tough, especially today. Like I said, we're going through some craziness because I think even people who are the most spiritual that I know are getting pulled into left and right, like kind of like the feeling of with his need to, get involved with these, I call them distractions, you know what I mean? And anything that has to do with transgenderism, like, listen, I'm sure you feel the same way I do. You got to get through this world the way you got to get through this world. You know what I mean? And we all got to get through. Right. So, I feel a certain way, but then there's all of these things in the media that make you think about how you feel, and you're ping ponging in your brain, and you're like, wait this, wait that, wait this. And it still boils down to love, right? What you have in your heart. So it's like the only way to get back to love is to kind of tune some of that out. You know what I mean? And disconnect from it and not engage and be like, okay, if that's what you guys need to engage with, I'm going to respect that. And I'm going to respectfully step over here.
Yeah. So this is the danger of like the media and the news and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would say is a lot of people, look, I was given the name Satya in India, and it was, there was a naming ceremony. I was like, I don't need any more names, but in my head, I said, the only name I would be into would be Satya, because that means truth, and truth has always been important. I didn't tell anyone, and they go, your name is Satya. And I was like, wow. And, but truth has always been important to me. Now there's two levels of truth, relative reality and absolute reality. Relative reality, we go, that's a lie, and that's that. But absolute still goes back to, who am I, and am I being that? Is this me? Is it not me? So when we can still engage in the media and look at that and stuff, because some people, again, spiritual, like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm saying it's actually good to, like a difficult yoga asana, it's good to play with that and see where you can keep yours. If you can't, if it's becoming like your cell phone, use your cell phone. If it's becoming, now I can't put it down and now I'm spending hours on that, okay, that's a problem. Maybe I need to pull back a little more. Right. But I really do think spirituality has to break out of the studio, out of your cushion, and incorporate all this stuff. And there's spirituality in politics. It doesn't mean we just like, are wearing robes and namasteing to each other. Right. But it means, again, how are you bringing that spirit of love into your discussions, your debates? I fall short on this at times, but I really think without bringing the challenging issues to us, that's really going, let's go deep and dark and stir the pot. And can we still stay love? And like, I remember, even with a client where we disagreed with something, I'm like, to me, our relationship is much more important, Right. And if we can't have these discussions without one or two of us getting upset, maybe it is not worth having the discussion. Right. But I would love to have these discussions still.
Yeah, no, and I agree 100% with you. I'm definitely not saying, what you're talking about earlier. I'm not saying like, oh, that made me uncomfortable, I'm just going to be quiet. I'm not saying that. I'm just, it's a difficult time right now, and there's a lot of ways to navigate, and we all need to, accept that my way to navigate is not necessarily the other person's way to navigate, and period. That's it. You know what I mean? And obviously with the idea that we all need to navigate together. If someone's way to navigate is just knocking everybody over and killing everybody, then that's, obviously you're not just gonna be like, all right, kill me. You've got to navigate. I got to let you navigate. Then you're like, no, fuck you. I want to navigate too. Yeah. I think that's the first F-bomb ever on the show, by the way.
Wow. I hope I was a good inspiration.
It was a good inspiration. You've inspired the rebel in me. And I didn't want to get too much into politics, but I do want to acknowledge your quote about deregistering to vote, and then you were done, and then obviously you like RFK. Rogan just dropped a 3-hour podcast. I have been watching a bit of it. I usually stay very, very far away from politics. I think that whole system needs to be rebuilt, and even anybody who's in it, even if they're good and they have a point, I think maybe they should lead in a different kind of system. You know what I mean? Not the same kind of system.
So I want to mention something about politics that's not about politics, really.
Yes.
It's about us. Sure. Yeah. So people will say, like, the people have the power. And I firmly believe that. I think, I lived in New York City for a very long time. I was like, if we want the subways to be $1, if no one rode that and say, we're not going, now it's like $2.75 or whatever, if we're not going on this, but just like the bus boycotts, Martin Luther King Jr. arranged, But the problem is most people, are like, well, it's convenient, or I'm just going to, and it doesn't work that way. But you see already, and again, I'm not saying about the issue, I'm just saying about the power of the people. You see that both Target and Bud Light, all of a sudden, based on certain policies or promotions they did, got killed. They're selling billions of dollars, literally like $15 billion down, because the people said, we don't want that. But the other side of the thing is, there are people, whether it's politics, whether it's billionaires, whatever, who have more influence, whether it's social media people who have, 10 million viewers or whatever, they have more influence. And I think we're delusional in thinking that some things, again, our system right now might need to change, but we have politicians that represent, and they have a bigger voice and they influence. So we still have to work with the system and understand our limitations within that. Again, I do believe the people have the power ultimately, but I think we're so broken apart, like you said earlier, by
Well, I think that's the motivation behind that division is because if we were united, we would know we have the power, and I do have faith in humanity that love will prevail. We will realize that is the power, to use to prevail, totally. So, and then how to sing, the more I know, the less I understand, Don Henley. The more I know, the less I understand. Yes, absolutely. Awesome.
We also have so much work on ourselves to do that. Remember, if you're getting too distracted and stuff, and you're not doing the work on yourself, you're missing something. I think we can juggle both. But I still always come back to that work is really our work is to do.
And I think, even, that, again, I'm not big on the terms, but light worker, I think there's a lot of people who are realizing how much you get from helping other people, like when you're a healer, every time you interact with somebody, you're healing yourself and you're healing them. And right there is a great little microcosm of you're healing the collective right there, just a little bit, you know what I mean? And now you've got two souls that are out there that are a little bit more healed, and it's just that ripple effect. And,
I just, a whole Ho'oponopono, it's a Hawaiian, technique, ritual. Really, I think it expands more when people had problems or the whole community, the whole family structure got together and it became a whole like family healing. But it's more simplistic. There's a few phrases. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And I remember watching one of these guys who were promoting this and talking about it. And they would call that clearing. You're clearing. And I use that a lot. And I found it helped me get on flights when this and there's that. And so part of me, there is a part of me going like, I'm using it for that, but I had a different insight about it. I really did feel it was clearing a collective, that everyone around me, whether it's at the airport or whatever, everyone around me has things they might feel sorry for. And by me putting that I'm sorry into the energy, it's almost allowing them to have some relief in that. Please forgive me. I love you, and thank you. And I really had that sense that I was serving everyone, and I was still trying to, get on my flights or do whatever. But I started seeing the beauty in that. When you heal others, as you're saying, you're helping everyone rise.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What a great story. We got to wrap up in just a little bit. I want to be cognizant of the time. But I would love, people seem to love on the show when we do like kind of demos or we share exercises or things like that. Do you have something like simple offhand that you can share with us that will bring people to just a little more peace, a little more relaxed, a little more able to cope? Like, let's say, something's frustrating and they need to, like, what's your count to 10 advice? Like,
yeah, frustrating and stuff. I was teaching a yoga class tonight, and when I go, okay, now do the sequence on your own. Don't worry if you mess it up or whatever. And what happens is, and I go, don't look around either. And what happens inevitably is someone will then look. And so there's a belief system that I must be right, or I must do this right, or I'm somehow my self-worth is less. And, and I'm saying, if you're at peace and doing your own postures, who gives a shit, And so in a way we can, in the moment, take a breath is a good idea. Our nervous system works when we're fight or flight. The breath is a little higher intense. It serves a purpose, fight or run or whatever. When we're more chill, the parasympathetic system, our breath is slower. And so that can actually directly affect your emotional system. And so there is something about taking a breath, and I wouldn't even say in with someone else, see if you can create some gaps rather than responding. Someone goes like this, and you go, oh, but you see if you can actually pause. I watched an interview with Elon Musk, and again, love him or hate him, there was one part I just was so fascinated about. He literally waited like 10 plus seconds before answering. And he was just like, the person asked him, and that sounds like nothing. If I just wait here for 10 seconds, I won't necessarily do it, but it's like,
it's great. I love it.
And it was a long time. And I didn't think he was necessarily playing game. He was literally, from my perspective, just finding how he wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of us are thinking out loud. We're figuring out the word.
Right. He was processing, and he wanted to be accountable.
And I felt that, just like I said about Andrew Tate, I felt that's a boss move. It's not a manipulative, like, we'll mimic it because we mimic Jesus, Muhammad. We'll go like, okay, I'm going to pause now that much. I'm saying take that time and own it. So if you're having a discussion, you're getting bent out of shape, see if you can create some more gaps, some spaces just to watch and listen, and that can pull you back, and watch your breath and just breathe a little slower. And that can pull you a little back from.
I love it. I love that. That was great advice. Perfect answer to my request. So tell me, I loved having you here. You're amazing to talk to. I got to have you back. If you'll come back, that would be awesome. I'm sure we can find another hour to talk about stuff.
When I connect with people or enjoy people, like I have some clients that I just feel like I'm hanging out with friends, and we're doing the work, but we're enjoying each other. Like I feel this. I also love the people writing in their messages and seeing that.
I love it. Right? It's great. It's great. I love it. But now you made me forget what I was going to say. What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say, so people are watching from all over the country, all over the place. But in case anyone is local to you, tell us where you're at and how people can connect with you. Or even if they're not local, how can people connect with you other than rebelyogi.com, which is
So tell you honestly, rebelyogi.com got created, and I didn't even something, there's a phone number on there that doesn't work and stuff like that. It better to, if you want to get in touch with me, at Instagram, there's Satya Yoga Teacher, Satya Yoga Teacher. You can send me private messages or straight.
Oh, Satya, not Rebel Yogi Satya at the regular Instagram that you have?
Well, you can do that one. That one's more radical. I actually created Satya Yoga Teacher when I had to have an Instagram for a yoga studio, and I didn't want them to see all my radical thoughts and stuff. I just thought that would be too much for them. But you can go Rebel Yogi Satya. Let's do that. Rebel Yogi Satya.
Well, no, I think I just got it in here.
Okay, that one's good too.
At Satya Yoga Teacher. So now this is the uncensored, authentic. No, this is not. This is the censored.
This is more the chill one.
This is the censored rebel yogi.
If you write me a message there, I'll pat and say you're from Michael's show. I'll give you the other one as well if you want that one. If you're in the New York area, I teach in Hoboken area and around Jersey City, Hoboken thing. It's real close to New York, right off New York City, right off. Pop in, couple stops on the PATH train. You're welcome to come as my guest if you're on this show. If you saw this video, come as my guest. So send me a message and I'll be like, cool, come in.
Wow, my show doesn't often get to offer free stuff. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah, I will be teaching more workshops and other things and have more online offerings as well. So that is coming. I just taught a workshop last Sunday, had someone film it. We got to edit it and all that, but there are going to be more offerings I'm going to have.
Cool. I think, you brought a couple of people in with you, but I think there are a couple of people here who are experiencing it for the first time who are resonating with your vibe. So that's all good. And for the people who who've come with you, who are new, who haven't been here before, I have this cool bell here. It's like the subscribe bell on YouTube. So if you are new and you subscribe and you tell me in the comments, I ring this bell out loud. I try not to ring it as I move it back and forth off my desk, but that's my gimmick. I have like a little IRL gimmick in real life. You tell me you subscribed and I respond in real life. But it's been amazing talking to you, man. I'm going to put you in the green room and sign off for the night, but we will definitely have you back if you'll come, and just have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon. And
I just want to share one final thing with anyone watching.
Please do.
Remember, like, we're all so special and unique, and we all have it. And we often look at people talking, when we think like, oh, he's more like known or something, whether it's these big people or, no, we all have our value and our thing. And so I want us all to remind ourselves to take from whatever you hear. You don't swallow it whole like gospel, but you say, how can I utilize a technique, an idea that I can bring into my life? That's how we learn and grow. If we just read a bunch of self-help books and never put it into practice, we have a great library, but we're not actually improving ourselves. So think about yourself, how you want to step up in the world, take pieces what you enjoy, and then start putting your authentic self out there.
Totally. Thank you so much, Rebel Yogi Satya, for being here. And we will talk to you soon here on the live stream. I'm going to
thank you so much for having me. I had a good time with you.
Hang on, and I'll talk to you in a minute. I'm going to take my customary exhale from an amazing moment, and I'm going to just expand on what Rebel Yogi Satya was saying, which is, I guess I should just call him Yogi Satya. Rebel Yogi Satya is like the formal version, and that is, people have said to me like, oh my God, I've seen your show and it's so amazing, and I'm just like, I don't even know, this came out of just life, right? Just doing the broadcast with Jesse, and then him saying, hey, I need a co-host. I never expected to be talking to people and expressing this, and it just felt right when I was doing it. And I'm me. I'm just doing me, right? I'm not anything special. If you want to express yourself this way, reach out to me and talk to me, because I can train you in StreamYard. I can help give you a little introduction and an outro and all of that stuff, and I can help you do your thing. And I'm even actually now producing remotely next week, starting the 22nd, with Grace Grella once a month. I'm going to be doing her psychic medium show, the new Grace Grella show. She's going from public access television to live streaming, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to be in the back producing and taking her live calls and giving them to her on the screen, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, find the special in you. Reach out to me if you want to do this. It's so much fun. It's so great to connect to people. That's my spiel. I will see you guys next week. Let me open up my calendar here and see who I've got coming next week. I have Stacy Snare coming next week. She has her own wellness center, and we're going to learn all about her next week. And until then, I will see you. Peace out from the live stream of consciousness.